So, a couple of weeks ago, I found out from my dad that my mother had cheated on him. And I'm actually not his biological daughter at all. And in fact, I am my stepdad's daughter. So, naturally, that has been messing with my head for quite a while. And because of this, I've decided to cut my mother out of my life because even though we were close, she never told me about any of this and always pretended like she was the victim here, just because nobody in the family seemed to like her much. And by that, I mean neither my dad nor stepdad and none of my siblings. I'll try to explain my family situation as briefly as possible, since it's pretty complicated. So, until the age of 7, I grew up with my mum and dad, and I thought that my dad was my biological father because I really didn't have any reason to doubt it. So I didn't know the truth until recently, but even then, I'm always going to call him Dad, and my stepdad will always be my stepdad. Don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with my stepdad, but given how difficult the situation is, I don't think that at the age of 22, I'll be able to make any adjustments. Anyway, around the age of 7, my parents decided to get divorced, and neither me nor my older brother, 25 male, had any idea why that was happening. Both of them just told us that they had been struggling with their marriage, and they thought that this was the best way to deal with it. But it seemed fishy even back then that in spite of it being a mutual decision, they were fighting so hard and seemed to hate each other so much. But neither my brother nor I were old enough to understand these complexities. So even though we could sense that something was wrong, we couldn't verbalize it, and in the end, I don't think it would have mattered. Anyway, after the divorce, our parents worked out a custody arrangement where we would spend half of the month at his place and the other half with our mother. So that was that. And for the first couple of months, things went smoothly, but then 6 months after the divorce was finalized, my mom dropped another bomb on us. She sat us down and told us that she had been seeing another man for the past couple of months, and that happened to be our stepfather. And now she was pregnant, and so they were going to get married, and she wanted us to get acquainted with this man so that we could all be one happy family. Back then, I obviously had no idea that my stepdad and my mother had been previously involved together, nor did my brother. But when I informed my father about all of this, I remember that he was furious and that he threatened to take away custody of both of us. But that never ended up happening. I don't remember much because it was so long ago, but I just know that my dad was very upset when he found out about all of this, because it had just been 6 months since the divorce had been finalized, and she was already talking about getting married. Anyway, that didn't affect anything. She still went ahead and got engaged, and we had a 3-month engagement period where we spent most of our time at our mother's place with our stepdad. We tried to dislike him, but honestly, he was a super laid-back, nice guy. And since we didn't know exactly what was going on, we ended up liking him enough, but we still loved our father more. Anyway, they got married, and a couple of months later, my sister was born. Then 2 years later, my youngest sibling was born. Everything was peaceful, and even though my parents still did not like each other, at least things were going smoothly. However, after the birth of her youngest daughter, my mom started having trouble in her marriage, and every time that we would go over to her place, she and my stepdad would be fighting. They made it work for 3 more years before they finally called it quits, and it was quite sad, but there was nothing to be done about it. They were hardly even on speaking terms anymore by the time they decided to get divorced, and the divorce was also pretty ugly. However, I continued to stay in touch with my stepdad because I wanted to watch my sister grow up, even though we were half siblings. And besides, by then, my stepdad had already been part of my life for a pretty long time. We got along well enough, so I chose to stay in touch with all 3 of my parents separately. That's how it's been for the past couple of years, but I'm the only one who has bothered to stay in touch with my mom. My brother doesn't speak to her. He stopped around a couple of years back. And I tried to get to the bottom of it, but he just told me that it was not his place to say anything. And I just figured that it might have been some fight that he had with our mom or something, and I didn't dig too deep. I really had no idea that it would be something like this, because until then, I had no idea about my own past. As for my sisters, they do come visit our mother occasionally on the weekends, but apart from that, they don't spend a lot of time with her, and they don't seem very close to her either. Even when they are here, they just keep to themselves and mostly wait until they can go back home to their dad. I've spoken to my stepdad about it. I've asked him about it, but he had also been weirdly secretive about all of that. It had been driving me crazy for the past year or so, and I'd been nagging my father to tell me what was going on. And finally, a few weeks back, he told me everything. It came as a huge shock to me because honestly, I had never seen any of this coming. Even more importantly, I didn't think that any of this would be my mom's fault. Because every time I would try to spend time with her, she would start playing a victim and a rant about how her family seemed to hate me and how her ex-husbands were turning her own children against her. And since I only knew her side, it all seemed pretty valid. But now that I know exactly why nobody wants to keep in touch with her, I don't think I can blame anybody but her. After my dad told me the truth, he said that the only reason he had not said anything was that he didn't want to hurt me by letting me know that he was not my real father. Because for what it was worth, he would always be my father, and it was quite emotional. I didn't even have the heart to get upset with him because I knew that it was just as tough for him as it was for me. Then I decided to speak to my stepdad about this, and I asked him if he knew, and he told me that he had found out just a couple of years ago, and that was around the time when he started having problems with my mom. Apparently, he had had a thing with her on and off for a couple of months while she was married to my father. Apparently, she broke things off with him for about 5 years when I was born, and he was heartbroken. But then she reached out to him once again, and he foolishly took her back. However, she never brought up anything about me, and he always thought that I was my father's daughter and not his. Anyway, after she got caught by my dad, thanks to his suspicions and his decision to go through her emails, she decided to get divorced once and for all. And by then, my stepdad had already been tricked into believing that the only reason my mom had even stayed with my dad was because of me and my brother. But now that we were slightly older, she would be wholeheartedly devoted to him. So he took her back, he supported her through the divorce, and even helped her find an apartment, pay for her lawyer and everything. And by then, she was pregnant again. They decided to get married, and well, we all know the story after that. But then she started cheating on him, and honestly, I have to say, she has a problem. Apparently she started flirting with a co-worker of his, whom she had met at a work party. And she got caught because she was doing it on social media, and my stepdad, just like my father, had also been suspicious and decided to check. Thankfully, it was just flirting, so they decided to tough it out and go for marriage counseling. Because, of course, they had to think about the kids, my sisters. Eventually, though, it was my mom who broke things off with him, and he got lucky, unlike my father, and was able to get custody of their daughters because his lawyer was insanely good. All of this is bad enough, right? Well, it gets worse because I also found out that I had been used as a pawn in both of these situations. Back with my dad, he had told me that my mother had pretty much spelled it out for him, that the only reason she had spent 7 years with him after my birth was because she wanted to ensure that she would get child support out of him if anything were to go wrong. And at the time, My stepdad wasn't doing too well financially, so she was waiting for him to find some stability in his career before she could leave. Now he was stuck because there was no way that he could get out of this without paying child support, and she was right. He did end up having to pay her, so that was one way that she used me. Then, with my stepdad, she convinced him to overlook her flirting by bringing me up, and that was actually how he found out that I was his biological daughter, because she told him about it in an attempt to get him to stay instead of leaving her. But eventually that was not enough, and by the time he decided to leave her, I was already old enough to take care of myself. However, in order to protect me from dealing with the complexities of these situations, nobody told me the truth until recently. And even that was just because I had been pushing for it. Anyway, all of this was just a lot to process, so I've been keeping my distance from my mom, and recently, a few days back, I made up my mind that I was going to cut her off, because I can't deny the fact that she has been a good mother to me, but the fact that she has used me as a pawn in both her divorces to get what she wants is unforgivable. And I don't think that a good mother does that. I had been ignoring her, and she had been complaining about how even I was not speaking to her anymore. Update 1. Hey, so I've read the comments, and first of all, I would like to thank everybody who took the time to leave a comment. So thanks for that. I've also made up my mind that I'm just going to leave my mother in the past. Because honestly, everything that I have learned recently about her, it's been a lot. I don't think that I can ever see her the same way again. And I think it's a good thing for me. Whatever I have found out about her, it's not been nice. In fact, it was also horrible that I actually even forgave my father and my stepdad for never having brought it up with me before. Because I get what they were trying to do. Yeah, it was kind of unfair that I didn't know about any of this until recently. But I can understand that they were just trying to protect me, and honestly, it was probably horrible for them as well. So they didn't want to relive it and bring it all up, so I got it. I also spoke to my brother about it, and he told me that he had confronted our father a couple of years back. And that was when he was told, because he had been pushing him just like I had been. He thought about telling me all about it as well, because he really felt bad for me, since I was the only person who would actually be there for our mom. But then he decided not to, because it was not his place and it was not his story to share. I'm pretty sure my mom has made both my dad and my stepdad miserable. And by extension, she's made me and my brother miserable as well, because I'm sure she didn't believe that she would be able to cover all of the stuff for the rest of her life, and we would never find out. And yet, she never stopped to think about us, about how we would feel when we found out about everything that she had done. It's all just awful, to be very honest, and I can't imagine reconciling with her anytime soon. My sisters still don't know anything about this, and I think they are way too young. So I think it's better that they don't know. That being said, I have lost all respect for my mother, and I don't want anything to do with her. That is my final decision. And I hope that she realizes that and respects it and stops texting me and trying to call me. I've blocked her already, but even then she's been creating new accounts on social media and new email addresses as well, just so she can keep messaging me and keep telling me to contact her, to unblock her, so she can talk to me. Yes, she might have her side of the story. She might have an explanation, but I don't want to hear it, because I really don't think that there's anything she can say that can justify any of this. And I don't want to give her a chance to manipulate me. I just don't need that in my life right now. Besides, I still haven't forgotten about the fact that she had basically used me as a pawn in both her marriages. That's just not fair. And maybe sometime in the future, I'll forgive her enough to hear her out. But right now, I don't have any forgiveness in my heart for her. I'm just exhausted. I don't even want to hear from her, and I wish there was a way to block her out altogether. But right now, I'm just ignoring all her messages and deleting everything so that I don't even feel tempted to read any of it. So yeah, that's everything about my mom. And even with my dad and my stepdad, I'm kind of keeping a distance from them. But that's not out of anger or anything. I'm just taking my time to process. Because of all this, it's all just been a lot. I don't know how to deal with any of this. I don't know how to deal with my emotions right now. So I'm taking my time, and they are also giving me my space, and I respect that. Maybe in a couple of days or a few weeks I'll go see them again, but until then, I'm just going to focus on my work, and I'm just going to focus on healing. It's going to hurt me not to have any contact with my mom, but I think that's for the best right now. And even right now, it's very difficult for me to accept and come to terms with all of this. But I have to do it for myself and for my family. So keeping that in mind, I'm staying strong for all of us. Update 2. Hey everybody, so it's been 2 weeks and today I finally decided to call my dad. He had checked up on me and I had kept my replies very short and brief. I was not trying to be mean to him or anything, but I figured that I might speak to him today and clear things up. So I called him and we spoke for quite a while. I told him that I was hurt that he hadn't told me about any of this, but I was not angry or upset with him, and I understood why he had kept it all from me. It's just that it took me some time to come to terms with all of it. And that's why I had been taking my time to reply and sort things out with him. And he told me that he definitely understood how difficult it was for me. And that was the reason why he hadn't bothered me and had given me my space, and he was glad that I had called. He invited me over for dinner this weekend, and I said that I would go. And on the phone, we spoke about a lot of things, mostly about our feelings. And once again, we had a very emotionally charged conversation, like we had the last time when all of this came up and I found out the truth. I told him about how my mom has been trying to get in touch with me endlessly, how she's been trying to get me to talk to her and how I've been ignoring her, how he told me that if I wanted to, then I can definitely talk to her. But I've told him that that's not happening because it's not just about me and her, it's about everything else as well. She can't just hurt people left, right, and center and then expect things to be fine because it's not fine. Nothing will ever be the same again. And she needs to know that. And she needs to accept the fact that it's her own fault. So she's going to have to face the consequences of her own actions, whether she likes it or not. She must have known that she wouldn't be able to outrun karma forever, and at some point she would have had to face all of this. Better now than later. He also told me that in the past couple of days, my mom had probably figured out that he was the one to tell me everything, and she had chewed him out on a voice note that she sent. But it doesn't make a difference anymore because I already know the truth and nothing can take that back. Nothing can reverse that. So she can do whatever she wants. It's not going to make a difference. I know what she has done, and there is no way for me to not know that anymore. Whatever she's doing now is just a temper tantrum, nothing else. And I guess even she knows that. She probably understands that there's no point in trying to fight it anymore. She's just going to have to accept the fact that she's a terrible person, and she's going to have to face her karma now. As for my stepdad, I had been a bit distant with him as well, but he had not checked in on me. Instead, he sent me a long message a couple of days back, saying that he could understand I was probably upset and that I had every right to be mad at all of them, but he also wanted me to know that it was also difficult for them all. And there were no winners in this situation. He wanted me to know that he missed me and that my sisters also miss me. So while he wanted to take my side, he also wanted me to get back in touch as soon as I felt good enough to do so. So he had pretty much addressed the issue directly, where my father had decided to keep checking in on me without directly referring to any of this, so I could deal with it at my own pace. And well, I guess both approaches worked in their own way. It just makes me appreciate the fact that I have had two father figures in my life. Two people who care for me so much that it doesn't matter if anybody else does or not. Anyway, after that, he had not said anything. So today, after the phone call with my dad, I decided to call him and speak to him. Like my father, we also had an in-depth discussion about all of this, and he told me that he was glad that I had chosen to call and sort things out without letting it fester for more time. He told me that he loved me, and he wanted me to know that the rest of the family, my brother, my sisters, and even my father loved me too. And whatever decision I ever made, they would be supportive of me. I told him that I understood, and that was that. So overall, I was able to sort things out with both fathers on the same day, and I think it was much needed. Now that it's all done, I feel much lighter, and I guess things are going to be better for me now onwards. It's probably not going to be ideal. It's probably not going to be what I had imagined in the past, because my mom's not going to be in the picture. But I can't afford to care about that anymore. I'm already feeling much better, and I'm already feeling a lot more hopeful about the future. So let's see what it brings. At least now, I know that I'm strong enough to deal with whatever life throws my way. Because dealing with the knowledge of everything that has happened, I think that's been difficult. And I feel a lot more confident in myself now. So I guess it's true what they say. Hardship does make you stronger. Update 3. So today I had dinner with my father, and he had the biggest surprise for me. When I showed up, it was just the two of us, but then a couple of minutes later my brother turned up as well, and I thought that would be the end of it. But just about an hour later, who should show up but my stepdad along with my sisters? Honestly, when they turned up, I was so shocked I didn't even know what to say, because I never thought that I could even imagine my dad and my stepdad being in the same room at any point in time. It's not like they were at each other's throats or anything, but given everything that had happened in the past, I had never imagined them on the same side. But here they were, and they were here for me. Of course, they had seen each other, but they had only met in person a handful of times, and that was just for graduation. And twice for my brother, one in high school and the other in college. So imagine all these years with these two people have only met 3 times, and that was just because they were left with no other choice. However, here my dad had apparently reached out to my stepdad after his last conversation with me, and they had planned this together. He was the one to initiate, and my stepdad already agreed, because apparently they felt like they had to make it up to me somehow, and nothing would make me happier than having my whole family under one roof. Especially when I've lost somebody who was so important to me, my mother. Of course, I've lost her, but she's gone from my life at least, so it was kind of awkward for them. But for my sake, they went through with it. It was a surprise to my brother as well, because he didn't see this coming, and even my sisters were quite shocked. But in the end, we were all just really happy, and it was quite emotional. But I was very thankful for it. I guess I didn't know how much I needed this until it happened. And I don't think I'll ever be able to adequately thank my fathers for what they did for me. But I think that's the best thing about dads. You don't have to thank them. They just know. Anyway, we had a pretty good time together, and I don't think I'll ever forget this day, because it's one of the most beautiful times that I've spent with my family. And my family, I mean my whole family, not just a part of it. I guess that was a first, and I guess there might be more of these dinners in the future as well. If they don't host it, I might host it myself. And it's going to be beautiful. I already know that. Update 4. Hi, so it's been a couple of months since my last update, and like I had said, I have continued to host these dinners every month. Everybody attends, my father, my stepdad, my brother, and my sisters. Everybody gets along well. It's beautiful, and I love it, and nothing makes me happier than spending time with all of them. I've not spoken to my mother in a very long time, and I've heard from my mom's side of the family that they're very disappointed in me, that she's very hurt because of me, but I can't do anything about that. As far as I know, she has sold her house and has moved away so she can be closer to her dad, who lives in the suburbs. She made sure that her family passed on the message to me that the only reason she decided to make this move was because she knew that now that I was gone, there was nothing worth staying for. And if I could ever bother to reach out to her, then I would know that she was not the bad guy here. Well, I don't believe that, and I know that this is just a trick to guilt trip me anyway. If she actually had an explanation and she was desperate for me to know it, she would have said something in the numerous emails that she had sent to me. So either she doesn't really have anything to say, she just wants a chance to speak to me in person so she can manipulate me, and maybe she's not desperate enough. But it's either of those two, and I'm not falling for any of this. So I'm done. I have my family by my side. I have people who care for me. That's all I need. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.